Welcome back. It's the 12 o'clock turn. So first up we're going to check for weather. 6 at 12 o'clock is clear. That's going to make a big difference. So that really is going to open things up both for artillery and everything else. So the Americans are going to have to watch out now. The guys on Bergstein Ridge can observe them. So I think that might prove important in the next hour. Let's wait and see. We can also see in clear whether we get some air for the Americans. They need more than a 2 to get a 3, so they've got a P-47 as well for this turn. So that will be making its appearance shortly. Okay, I'll just need to check the op sheets and then I'll be back in a minute. Right, the only thing to report on the op sheets is that I've officially called the defence of Osnack. We've failed that op sheet and everybody, if they can retreat. I'm not giving too much hope for these two guys. The mortars probably can get out because they're going to be out of line of sight as soon as they get down into here. He's heading towards there anyway, but I think that's the end for Osnack. The other op sheets either just are accruing or in terms of the German Fusilier Battalion in Schmidt, still failing, still needed a 52, got a 12. So let's roll for initiative to see who goes first in the artillery phase. Right, the Americans are up, so I'll place the work out what I'm going to attack, place the markers, and then I'll get back to you with the result from there. Right, as I've not played through an air attack before, up to now, I thought I'd at least record that for posterity. There's only one one German unit really that is a possible target. It's almost impossible to spot units in terrain. I mean, you've got to roll a 5 or a 6 to spot these guys for the initial sortie success. Actually, if they're in woods, which is with no trails, it's a 7. So unless they're moving, there's no chance. So we're going to go after this guy. He is in open terrain and he is moving, so we need to throw 3, but we've got +1 on the dice, so only need a 2. So first up, do we spot him? 4, yes we do. So that means I've now got a 24 point attack for P-47s onto him. He's moving, that's +2. That's the only modifier that we've got on there, so 24 +2, oh ouch, 24, and then 2 more, a 61 is a 3-step loss. That was very painful, so he's now gone down to a 4. So don't get caught out in the open when the airplanes are about. That's a major success for the Americans in terms of removing any potential for retaliation from these guys. If you wonder why I've got this strange Banzai marker, again, there's no air markers in this Vassal module, so that was just to remind me where we were doing it. So that's the end of the air phase. There was no artillery attacks, so we're now on to the initiative phase. Let's roll for that, or initiative for the action. Draw 1-1, 2-6. No, it's the Germans that go first. That's going to be a shame for these guys over here. Right, I'll let you know how they do in just a moment. Right, not too much to report for this. Basically, I'd forgot with this guy that he should have been suppressed after his retreat, but he's recovered anyway, so that's alright. This guy has called to just save yourself retreat to there. He's removed his suppression marker because again he's out of sight. These did have tried to have a shoot at him, but now they're down the ravine, it's all blocked off. These are keeping their heads down, and this guy recovered, but the tanks did have a Overwatch fire at him, which has caused a step loss. He coped with the morale though, so he's ready to catch the other guys as they move off. So that's the end of that. We're on to Americans next, and I'll come back with the highlights from there. In the American turn here, but I thought it'd be interesting to play through this assault. The Americans are fed up with this guy. They moved in. All these units are actually all on this hex, so just spread them out to allow me to see what's going on. They moved into move mode and announced the chance to assault because he's suppressed that he doesn't get the normal Overwatch trigger that would normally give, but he does get to lose a suppress marker as they charge in. So fire will be simultaneous. So for the Germans we've got 4, they've got 3 left, so 7. You ignore all the same defensive stuff, so they're in the same terrain. So that's 7 with a +2 shift because they're in move mode. He can only you'll be able to do anti-tank rolls against these. I may have to just double check that in a minute. I'll do the area fire first. So 7 against the on area fire, +2 for that, +4 shift for range. So 7 with a +6, 2, 3. He's actually up to 2632 column. So he rolls a 43. 43 is 1 step loss. So 1 step against the Americans. I'm just going to check whether I can do AT rolls or not. Only paralysed troops that can't make AT rolls. So we've got 2 goes at the thing, but it's in the hex. Partly this is a partly protective, so that's 7, but there's a -3 on the dice because they're stacked with infantry. So I need 10 or above to yep, 10 or above. Nope, both missed. Right, so that's the end of the, well, that's the Germans go. So this guy, and we're going to be back into it at the end of this anyway. 3, 9. He's got his 5, so 9 plus another 5, so it's 14. 14. All they get is they get the 14 with a +4 shift. So they're at the 33 to 40 range. 52 is 2 steps. So let's mark these things out now. So there's 1 against him. He is gone. He's lost 1, so he's now down to 3. So that's the end of the firing. Now they both take morale checks, and this is, let's do the American first. 3 plus 1 is 4. Battalion morale they've lost, so that's 5 in partly protective, however. So that's 4. He 16. He's absolutely fine. This guy 6 plus 3 is 9. Plus another 2 is 12. No, 11. -1, so he's on 10. I don't think he's going to be hanging around. 65. He surrenders. Away he goes. So not too bad. 1 step loss is all we took from that, and we've cleared another unit out. Germans back up there. 3 of them gone now. Not many of that unit left. So that's just a playthrough assault. I've got one more to do over here, then I'll just sum up how we got to in the end of the turn. That's the end of the Americans' turn. To summarise them, I think it's quite an interesting one, showing the way the TCS system works. To quickly summarise where we are, E Company has managed to put away this, had a few parting shots at the tanks, but they managed to escape, and thanks to the terrain there won't be any other shots. The other 2 mortars can't do anything, they're just hanging around by their rally point, so these will move up to there and then wait till the new opsheet comes into effect. We have cleared out Vossenack though, so I showed you the assault over here earlier, which was successful, and we had a similarly successful assault over here. Again, took 1 step loss. In fact, I can get rid of that because he would have recovered and completed the capture. These guys dashed off to have and attempted an overrun of these in the clear, till we realised they can't enter. That hex has got 2 contour lines, which means vehicles, it's too steep, but we still won't be able to have a final shot at them before they go. The rest of the units are now piling down the road, with the tanks leading the way, trying to cover them, heading for Mestrengemuller and then on to Kommerscheid. What's going to be really interesting is that's them following their instructions, which is exactly what they would have done in real life, but we're now in an interesting situation. We have these guys who are falling back and are going to be very weak to cover this whole village. Obviously I know these have got an attack opsheet in the works, so if that rolls and implements quickly, they've got a good chance of overwhelming the defenders if this doesn't go ahead. Equally, however, these guys have now got a clear run at Kommerscheid because the Fusiliers haven't been able to get moving either. So I suppose it nicely illustrates how things all just didn't work just as neatly as you would like them to. It's good fun when you're doing this solitaire because it gives you a really clear feeling for how you should be moving the units. Certainly wouldn't be behaving this way in Squad Leader. So, but I wonder if this was a competitive game against someone else, how well you keep to all that. You'd certainly have to be pretty honest. But there we are, an interesting turn, and it'll be the 12-20 turn next. 12-20 turn, and I've done a quick update of all the opsheets. Nothing new has implemented. There wasn't much chance for any of them apart from the Fusiliers, but the Germans are still stuck in Schmidt. And we've done a roll for any air this turn, and there's none. So pretty uneventful. The only other thing just to note on the opsheet phase is I have added in the 3rd platoon into my defence. It was looking pretty weak, and the tanks can't get any further than the first hex of the Karl Trail, so added this in. Because they're the same unit as this, it didn't increase the size of the opsheet, so as far as I can see, that doesn't decrease your accrued turns. I'll be interested to see if anybody can correct me on that, but you multiply it by the old size divided by the new size, that's 1, so it stays the same. So that's the status there. That needed a 66 to implement and didn't. So let's see who has the initiative for the artillery and the air phase. 5 for the US, 3 for the Germans. So Americans first. The only place I could really pull it in would be, he could spot for him, but he could be interested in the Zarstone, so I don't think there's any artillery worthwhile. But I think this is the time that the Germans are going to attack, so we are going to, where's my marker, we're going to see if we can take out some tanks and whatever in this while they're still at this end of the village. I'll let you know how that goes in just a minute. Well, that was unexpected. The artillery just made a good shoot, needed a 41 or better and got a 41, and landed here. They had no effect at all on the infantry, but they rolled an 11 against the tank and took it out. So that meant the tank company had now lost 2 tanks, raising its morale to 1. Therefore, they had to check morale. Anything but a 1 would do, and you guessed it, a 1. So all the tanks companies must now fall back. They're unassigned. They must retreat to their rally point. Not what we were expecting at all for the Americans, and we're going to have to create a new op sheet next time round to bring them back into the game. Having said that, they are probably not going to be that relevant because they can't get through this trail. That was as far as they could get anyway, so this might be an opportunity just to keep them all back for the defence of Vossenac, but it shows how things can turn quickly. Right, on to the action phase. 6 for the Americans, 5 for the Germans, so the Americans move first. I'll run through that and then come back with an update shortly. In the American turn, some of it forward and some of it backwards. Basically, E Company and the tanks have completed their retreat back to Gumeter. That's with the rally points, so they're all now within 5 hexes of it. So they're going to stay put until they can get their new op sheet. The chemical mortars have completed their move up into Vossenac. They're now got a good central position. They can pretty much support fire everywhere. And for the rest of the infantry, it's full speed ahead down into Stringamur and Commershite. So it's going to be touch and go. It'll be really interesting to see if the Germans activate next go. It's not very likely, so they should be able to get themselves nicely set up. It's then going to be, can they get a defence into Vossenac in time? That's the end of their go. I'll quickly do the Germans. That should take about 10 seconds, and then I'll come back to you. For the Germans, so a minor reorganisation here. An interesting point in that I could potentially start moving these guys to the edge of the woods because it's still within their operational area for the defence, but it seems a bit gamey because I think in real life, once you'd seen off the troops, if you'd been told to stand here until you got new orders, which they haven't got yet, you would stay put. So I'm going to play with that and leave them where they are. And the other 2, he just moved on to trail. Their rally point was here, so he's within that, and this is just continuing to make its way through. So very quick, end of turn, back in shortly with the next one. 40 turn, and it's game on. On the op sheet checks, the Germans have finally managed to activate the Fusilier Regiment in Schmidt. So it sounds like looks like we're going to have a clash in Commershite coming up as Americans pound forward, and so do the Germans. I have done a couple of other things which I should have probably done earlier as well. Thinking ahead, I've created a hasty defence op sheet for the Americans once they get to Commershite. That should have been brewing since the beginning, so that's may cause some problems, but I'm not sure whether they'll get there or not now. I think the Germans will probably get there first. And I've also created a very small attack op sheet for these guys. Once they're back here, there is still a chance for them to try and nip back in and get the north end of Vossenac here, which again would help them in their victory conditions. So all the 2 platoons that we've got left, I suppose it's all going to be whether the Americans can get somebody there or not. So that's been quite interesting. So the other thing I didn't check for is the American planes. 2 means they have a P-47. So right, it's time to decide where to place that, and I'll tell you how that goes in just a minute. Max, the only one in the open I could really have attacked was this one. Actually, when I looked at it, there's a small bit of woods there, and it says if there's any woods in there, it counts for cover and for movement. They obviously were hiding under the tree, but actually the Americans rolled a 1 anyway, so even out in the open and in the move, he would have still missed it. So obviously a big tree, and the planes flew on. So let's roll for initiative. 1 for America, it's 5 for the Germans. Right, so it's Germans first, and I'll tell you how that goes in a minute. So a quick picture of the mobilisation of the Fusiliers. I'm being quite cautious here. I've not left the move mode, and I made sure everything is in partly a protective terrain, just in case the planes come back. So let's slow these guys down a bit, but I didn't want to leave them in the open. So that's them moving up, and these guys are just regrouping around here. See what we do next. So again, another quick turn. The Americans are all lined up. It really is going to be a car crash in Kommachite for the next turn. If we look, we can just see the head of each column appearing on the same part of the map. It's going to be an interesting one. 1 o'clock is going to be a busy hour. I'll be back with that shortly.